This week we will begin our course discussion on online retailing by explaining what defines e-retailing, the channel types used, the essential components used in successful internet retailing, the advantages afforded as well as the disadvantages and challenges to watch out and prepare for, and the globalization that can and does occur. Necessity is the mother of invention. You may have heard this quote before. And okay, so maybe Plato wasn't thinking about the internet in particular, but the same applies to all great opportunities. If you need it and can't find it, or would like a better way of getting it, chances are someone else has the same problem. Be the one to fill the gap. The internet's a great way of filling a niche market. E-commerce includes the buying and selling of business information, transactions, and maintaining a business relationship via the internet. In e-commerce, information and communications technology is used in interorganizational transactions and in B2C transactions. Over the years, retail competition has expanded greatly. Not only are there now local buyers, but international sales have become a greater possibility. SMEs, small to medium-sized enterprises, have benefited in that the opportunity for niche marketing is now a reality. To leverage these new possibilities, businesses began investing in new powerful technologies such as internet data mining, video conferencing, broadband solutions, and online marketing that we've all seen. B2C, business to consumer, is a type of e-commerce that involves transactions between, you've guessed it, businesses and consumers. B2B transactions are larger than B2C transactions and have a slightly longer historical base. Therefore, B2B transactions are relevant as we explore B2C processes. E-retailing, also known as e-tailing, is the concept of selling of retail goods using electronic media, in particular the internet. The term electronic retailing has been used in internet discussions since 1995. The term is synonymous with B2C, transaction models of e-commerce. A B2C business model executes a transaction between a business, and in our case a retail business, and the final consumer. Let's keep in mind that although internet retailing is an independent business model with certain specific constructs like trust model, electronic transaction processes, etc., in reality, it's a subset of e-commerce. E-retailing stores sell goods that can be sold easily online, things that make sense, like Amazon did for books and CDs. A personal connection with your customer is important when you're trying to gain and keep them. In order to facilitate this personal connection of the customer and your product and its quality, as he or she would get while they're physically present in a traditional brick and mortar store, online retailing requires lots of displays and descriptions of product specifications. Research has shown that providing information is one of the components of building consumer trust online. It's actually one of the biggest components. More often than not, companies are in business to win, to make money, to outperform their competitors. They adopt new technologies to fend off new competitors, reinforce an existing competitive advantage, leapfrog competitors, or just to make money in new markets. Performance is critical. We can do an entire course on internet business models, and those courses do exist. And while I find them interesting in this course, we will touch on the topic in order to allow time to delve more into the process. At the end of the presentation, you'll see a list of links, and in that you'll see a link for a good book on internet business models and strategies. There are a few good ones out there. This is just a starting point for you. Successful online commerce can take many forms. The level of digitization or online activity indicates which type of internet business you're dealing with. Obviously, the completely physical traditional brick and mortar store facilitates all dimensions in the transaction process in a physical form. What I mean by that is that the customer physically walks in the store, they physically picks out a pair of shoes to try on, and then physically makes a purchase with cash or credit, and then receives the shoes to bring home. Here you'll see the definition of pure and partial play e-commerce. Let's look at an example of pure play e-commerce. In a scenario in which all customer interaction is done online, here's an example of iTunes, where you purchase your music to download on your iPod via PayPal or your credit card, iTunes card. PayPal, by the way, is another example of a pure play e-commerce. This is an example of partial e-commerce, a partial play. It would be where the consumer is going to Miracle Envelope in this situation. They scroll through an online catalog and purchasing via the credit card. And they decide to buy a case of specialty paper. Well, then the paper is then delivered to them, thereby completing the transaction via USPS. Until the point of delivery here, the transaction was all done online. It was all electronic. It was all digitized. Completing the transaction with the product shipment being physically delivered by USPS is where the idea of partial play is displayed. Multi-channel retailing can help out when earnings from one channel are sluggish. After all, think about how often you go online and you research a product and then go to the store to make the actual purchase, maybe for a car or shoes or the latest tech gadget. Consumers still use the internet for information gathering. The convenience of opportunity is a draw that keeps multi-channels going. Look at Sears, for example. They started out as a catalog company, opened a brick and mortar, and then expanded with a website. The combination has made them quite successful. Drugstore.com, which was once a pure e-commerce player, agreed to sell 25-cent stake of Rite Aid not long after the rival Soma.com was bought by CVS. Retailers have a choice. They don't have to do transactions exclusively online. Partial e-commerce can increase the market potential of a traditional brick-and-mortar retail business. Think of Sears, Target, Lake Champlain Chocolates is another good example, where consumers are given the opportunity to shop online and in store. E-tailing is a direct sale of products, information, and services through virtual stores on the web, usually designed around an electronic catalog format and auction sites. There are thousands of storefronts or e-commerce sites on the internet that are extensions of existing retailers or startups. Penetration of computers and proliferation of the internet has given rise to many new forms of businesses, such as business process outsourcing, call center-based customer service relationship management, like CRM, medical transcriptions, remotely managed educational and medical services, and of course, electronic retailing. There are certain essential ingredients for an electronic retailing business to be successful. We should consider these components well in advance before setting up a web store. These essential components include the attractiveness of the B2C electronic commerce portal, the right revenue model. Did we choose the right one? The penetration of the internet. How easy was it? Before we begin designing a site layout, we must consider the site architecture, the planning, the ethics that we will use, the privacy models, security, accessibility, as well as customer support. We have to ask ourselves, what will we use and how will we plan to use it? Will we use an e-catalog, which is basically just a database of products, prices, and availability of our stock? If we have a shopping cart, where the customer selects their items and fills a shopping cart at the time of the checkout, the system then calculates the price to be paid for the product, and in most cases this is done in real time. International orders often find this area really difficult to process, but that's another story for another time. What payment gateway will be used? The payment gateway is where the customer makes payments through his or her credit card or use eCash. Of course, we want the payment mechanism to be fully secure, and we're going to talk about security later in the course as well. Like all retail businesses, an internet retail business requires support services as a prerequisite for successful operation. These services are required to support the business, online and offline, throughout the complete transaction processing phase. The following are the essential support services. Communication backbone between the suppliers, wholesalers, and business, and then again between the business and the customer. Payment mechanism, order fulfillment, and logistics, where the company plans a strategy for being both effective and efficient. E-retailing, either as a transaction of the existing retail distribution business or as an altogether new startup, has many advantages. Traditional brick-and-mortar retailers are placing more emphasis on the electronic channels and evolving into multi-channel retailers. And they do this in order to increase their research and to support their retail channels. The new startups in e-retailing can be launched from a small room using one internet-connected computer. It's easy, it's affordable. For the existing retailers, it's an extension to leverage their skills and their growth revenues and profits without creating a completely new business. E-retailing overcomes some limitations of the traditional storefront. For instance, the customer can shop from the comfort of their home or on the train on their way to work using their cell phones. There's so many options and capabilities. The e-commerce software that also traces the customer's activities online enables e-tailers to gain valuable insights into their customer shopping behavior. Think of the possibilities. The e-retailer's channels transcend all barriers of time and space. That means that the retailer's server must be on and operating 24/7. An order can come from any customer living any place at any time of the day. Oftentimes, customers expect customization. Although customization of product offerings is important, it also means customization of the shopping experience, including but not limited to customer service. This can be a good thing, provided that you're prepared for it. The online retailing process is not a complete problem solver in the field of retail methods. It also suffers various drawbacks. Some of these drawbacks need mention. Online shopping, while convenient, lacks an emotional shopping experience that the customer can get in a traditional store. It being a vessel for intangible merchandise does not provide sensory support for the customer. Therefore, the customer cannot hold, smell, feel, or try the product. Because of scammers and thieves, we've all heard of the horror stories. Online customers are reluctant to part with their credit card details for fear that they may be misused. This brings out security issues. Although this has improved over the years, customers are not yet convinced about the foolproof status of this method. The internet business provides, to a large extent, impersonal services which, for some cultures, such as India, for example, find it hard accepting. Studies have shown that they prefer tangible, personalized service. Companies have to try to get around that. How can we do that? What products sell best online? Do some online products sell better to one cultural community than another? These are all questions that researchers have explored and are continuing to watch for further development. One thing is for certain, its positive growth rates shows us that the advantages of e-retailing outweigh its drawbacks. The success of e-retailing depends on the multiple factors that are required to be taken into consideration. Not considering these areas could possibly create a negative impact on the entire business. The internet retail business pattern is sophisticated. Every consideration requires equal importance in its own status. The factors shown here are some of the factors that could be taken care of. Others exist. These factors may vary depending on the nature of the business and the external factors involved. An e-retailer is not alone in the retailing market. The business is also surrounded by a number of competitors. In order to draw and encourage sales, the business has to think of its competitive pricing so that it can attract customers. Competitive pricing finds scope from potential decreases in charges and expenditures, such as overhead, that we incur as a brick-and-mortar business. The website's aesthetic and easy handling facilitate two important terms in the relation. The aesthetic provides initial attraction along with keeping the visitor on the site, navigating through pages. First impressions are important, even online. The ease of which viewers can intuitively navigate keeps the visitor surfing for a longer period of time. Make it hard for them, confusing, unfocused, and they're quick to look elsewhere. The aesthetics of the website must provide a soothing look and feel and clarity of objects or scripts. The careful placement of buttons and links provides easy handling. Finally, the transparency of services helps to establish the visitor's trust in the site and, in turn, the business. Here are some challenges of e-retailing. Unproven business models. In the beginning, most of online businesses were experiments in new areas and didn't provide enduring sources of profit. This was the primary reason behind closing down the 90-some-odd% of purely e-commerce companies in the beginning. Today, .com businesses have matured a little. Still, some of the businesses are at the experimental level, and this is due in part to the ease of entry into online businesses. And they don't guarantee regular revenues. These models have gotten a lot better over the years, but still do need work. Another is requirement to change the business process. From changing the management hierarchy to alleviating decision bottlenecking to drop shipping, eliminating the need for warehousing, and increasing the required confidence in the shipping and production partners. Channel conflicts may arise. Companies selling through the internet as well as through brick-and-mortar stores may find their interests conflicting at many places. In web store orders, the goods directly reach the end consumer, and so the distributors and sellers may feel the threat of their existence. Most of the time, it's seen that the retailers tend to reduce price over the internet. The sale of the brick-and-mortar store may drop because of this. The retailer may tend to sell more through the internet as a result of a reduction of prices. There's also legal issues to consider. Internet commerce transaction laws are evolving and vary by country. Validity of email, digital signatures, and application of copyright laws are being checked by various government authorities. Email and digital signatures are now being recognized as valid for any legal purpose. There's also the value-added tax, or the VAT, is yet another area of problem or challenge. Taxes on goods and services are still an issue. Since the taxes are levied and shared by multiple government agencies at local, state, or federal levels, there are no clear rules to guide retailers across the board on that. In e-tailing, the place of billing, the place of dispatch of goods, and the place of delivery all differ. If these three places fall in different jurisdictions of government, levy and submission of taxes would be a problem. All businesses, both online and traditional storefronts, need to comply with the same laws and regulations, therefore facing the same penalties for not complying, in order to make these models work. You can click on the links to read about the Barnes & Noble sales tax issue in New Mexico. In a traditional brick-and-mortar sale, it's easy to follow local, federal, and state laws because the store owner-operator knows what they are and who to report to, depending on the situation. However, in an online sale, potentially being global, which laws do you follow? What types of problems might this bring? Identifying and solving legal issues is one obstacle that a B2C faces. The following links listed here on this slide describe how in June 2008, eBay was court-ordered by France to pay $63 million in damages for sales of fake Louis Vuitton luggage. This happened after the 2001 French ruling on Yahoo, in which France mandated Yahoo to restrict French citizens from accessing via the U.S.-based website any materials that French law deemed illegal. This case is important to look at because it's widely viewed as a landmark on the regulation of international cross-border internet transactions. So if you want to learn more about that, you can use these links that I have posted on the slide. We also consider the ethical issues. Ethical considerations should drive a business decision-making regardless of the type of business. Remember, online companies face some of the same laws that traditional brick and mortars face, and trust, once lost, isn't easily found again. In a short time, B2C e-commerce has seen its share of ethical dilemmas, some of which have legal recourse and some of which were handled via companies' ethics policies. Think about eBay. Even though eBay has been seen as a P2C, a peer-to-consumer sales platform, many retailers and wholesaler businesses also use eBay to boost awareness and sales of their products. eBay made the decision to pull firearms from their categories, even though such sales are legal. While collecting and using customer information from websites is not legally defined, letting your customer know what you are and are not doing with their information builds trust. Trust leads to purchases. Keep in mind that global expectations of privacy differ. As such, allowing customers to opt in and out has become widely expected. We will discuss ethical issues more in depth later in the semester. And lastly, we'll look at the security and privacy. Security is a major challenge in the digital world. Despite a lot of security arrangements such as password and firewalls, we come across the news of website hackings and illegal data collection. The internet, being a public domain, is more susceptible to unauthorized peeping. People are wary of divulging information regarding their credit cards and personal details on the internet because they are misused over and over again. We've all seen and heard of the instances where cybercrime criminals have exploited the internet weaknesses and broken into computers, retrieving passwords and banking information. Security of payment gateway is a major concern, which is to be taken care of by the retailer by putting up proper security labels. And we will discuss this further later in the coming weeks. Why don't more companies sell internationally? The internet is global, so why doesn't this happen? Why does most of the selling happen in our own backyards? There are many reasons why companies are choosing to advertise big and sell local. One reason is that oftentimes SMEs don't have the financial means and the know-how to complete an international transaction. Studies have shown us that consumers expect to know the actual total price that an item they are purchasing will be when it arrives at their doorstep. Consumers hold the same feeling and standards when purchasing international products as they do products being bought in their own country. Think about when you go online to make a purchase. Say, go to Gap.com. When you add an item into your shopping cart, you want to know how much the product will be, all the taxes, shipping fees included. Oh, and you want to know the information now, on the spot, automatically. You don't want to wait for someone to calculate it for you and then get back to you. Unless a company is experienced in international sales, it'll run into problems calculating costs, and by that time, the customer will have moved on to another web store. Some other reasons include trust, targeting the population, possible language issues, internet access, and payment methods, to name a few. Visit the FTC's website to read Going Shopping, Going Global, a guide to e-consumers, to find out what some consumers are asking before they shop online internationally. It's interesting. Some questions addressed here are the prices posted in US dollars or some other currency? Does the company ship internationally? How long will it take for an order to be delivered? Will unexpected taxes or duties be added to the price? If there's a problem, where can I get it resolved? Finally, e-retailing just isn't about building a pretty website. An established management consulting firm will bring in the requisite skills to evaluate a business plan, check out the revenue models, help identify alliances, and integrate supply chain processes within the e-commerce initiatives. While the look and product of the web store is important, the most important concentration is focused on the back end of the system. Customers keep coming back only if early shopping experiences prove to have been pleasant and successful.